tip. Coming all 3 speakers. Good honest reviews, book shows, and the movies all getting featured. They all getting featured. Said it's Tanesha's tip. Coming all 3 speakers. Coming all 3 speakers. Good honest reviews, book shows, and the movies all getting featured. Yeah. It's your girl Tanesha, straight magic. The greatest book reviews, let's get at it. She not here to offend, she just honest. Bringing words that may leave you astonished. And plus she do shows. She cover all like hands, knees, and toes. Don't lollygag, no, she just roll. Then it's on to the next one, on to a fresh one. Ooh. Ha. Said it's on to the next one, on to a fresh one. Tanesha's tip. Coming all 3 speakers. Good honest reviews, book shows, and the movies all getting featured. Said it's Tanesha's tip. Coming all 3 speakers. Coming all 3 speakers. Good honest reviews, book shows, and the movies all getting featured. Yeah. Hey. It ain't for the clout, it's honest. See the truth when you look beyond it. Book shows, not to mention movies. She give or take in a great way, you'll see. Check it out, see if you agree. If you vibe, guess it's meant to be. And baby, you don't even need the script. Learn it all with Tanesha's tips. Tanesha's tip. Coming all 3 speakers. Yeah. Good honest reviews, book shows, and the movies all getting featured.
Hi, and welcome to Tanesha's Tips. Okay, I have been slacking. I am trying to get back to this messy good time called Divorced Sistas. We are on episode 4, and this is called Line in the Sand. Okay, so where we left off at the last episode was when Naomi entered the banquet, and everybody was like, oh goodness, we got a problem. That's what Bridget had said. And that problem being Naomi. Everybody head turned, and here she come, and she's like, I know y'all ain't over here talking to that one, which she meant, you know, the enemy, basically her ex and his next. So anyway, they tell her to hush, they get her to sit down or whatever, and it's on. It goes immediately to the left. And that wasn't Beyonce coming in there talking about to the left, it just went left quickly. Anyway, so as Naomi settles in her seat, Rashida asks Bridget to go get some coffee so they can sober her up, right? So that she can stop making a spectacle of the whole, dinner. Because she came in hot, which, knowing what happened on the 3rd episode with them taking all her stuff because of her ex Franklin, we already knew why she was on 10, 11, 12. And that's putting it mildly, because I think Naomi is a good time to me. It's my opinion. So anyway, as soon as she sits down, she starts flirting with Javon. She notices that, oh, it's a good looking new guy at the table that I don't know. Let me see who he is. She was like, oh, hey, how you doing? Now, Tiffany immediately becomes uncomfortable because she like, wait a minute, we can't be doing this. If I'm sitting here and I just met him, and then she taking notice of him, is he gonna go along with this, or what's gonna happen? But she's not saying nothing, because she like, I understand Naomi is in a predicament or a situation or whatever, but they also know that this is Naomi. Also, if you take a look at Geneva, she visibly looks uncomfortable the entire time she's been there, and I'm noticing nobody is saying anything to her. Now, Rashida has everybody's information. She knows what's going on with everybody, but nobody knows what's going on with her. But she automatically knows that, ooh, something ain't right in the milk, because, obviously she did talk to Geneva prior to the banquet and a lot came out. But she also is like, oh, this is uncomfortable, because she already knew about Geneva and Javon. Anyway, she not saying nothing, but she kind of giving everybody the side eye like, oh, Lord, how is this going to go? Well, Franklin immediately kind of starts going in a little bit or whatever when Naomi notices, Lindsay, which is the next. She says, oh, those are nice earrings you got there. And so she says, oh, thank you. And she was like, it looks better on somebody with color. Obviously, they said that in the last episode too. And she let it be known that those used to be hers. So I'm noticing this trend here that everything that he gave Naomi, he took back and gave it to her, which Naomi did say that last episode. When she threw her other earrings in the bushes, and she said, "I'll be damned if the girl get my stuff." Okay, cool. Anyway, as we keep going on, this is really wild. Pastor Jeff whispers to Rashida, "Why don't you get your friend to leave?" And she said, "That's my friend. Why don't you get your friend to leave?" So it's a tussle back and forth with words anyway. Rashida just ignores him. She tries to get Naomi to, settle down or whatever. Anyway, so because Naomi keeps flirting with Javon, she says something to him, but he ends up saying to Tiffany, "Oh, it's a lot of tension at the table," and Tiffany says, "You don't even know half of it," and we don't, because we all getting this together, right? So anyway, what ends up happening is Javon trying to like get everything back to normal and kind of get the atmosphere kind of back, on solid ground. He says, "You're so beautiful, whatever. And if, in my past, I've been known to do a little bit of photography." He said, "It's not professional or anything, but I would love to take your picture." Now Tiffany looking like, what the heck? And I'm trying to talk to you, is what she looking like. Geneva is real uncomfortable. She still ain't said a word. And he said, "Here, let me show you." And he passes her the phone or whatever. And she like, "Oh, so I see what you did here." And, she is just taken aback. And he then immediately reads the room and says, how long have y'all been friends?" And they like, "Oh, for a long time." And he said, "Well, actually, y'all all beautiful. I really love to take all of your pictures, right?" So Tiffany looks at him and says, "I would really like you to take my pictures." Girl, go ahead and tell him what the deal is. You don't want them taking all them other girls' pictures, because why? Nobody sitting up here making me look crazy. I just met you. So she really do like him. You could tell she like really kind of smitten with him or whatever. This whole time Geneva ain't said nothing. And he said, "Yeah, I've taken pictures of Geneva." And they're like, "Well, where the pictures at?" He said, "Oh, I don't know." And they asked, "Geneva, you ain't never told us that." She said, "Oh, girl, I forgot about that. I don't even know where them pictures at." "Girl, you know where them pictures at." "Mm-hmm. You know where them pictures at." But ain't nobody asked me. So anyway, as it keeps going along or whatever, the auctioneer decides that the next thing she's gonna auction off is a painting. And she starts, telling the history of the painting or whatever. And all of a sudden Franklin says, "Oh, Miss Auctioneer Lady, actually let me do this." And he gets his little self on the stage, and he has a whole diatribe that he wants to go into. This whole time he gets up on this stage, he is meaning to humiliate Naomi. And when I say humiliate, I mean he degraded her and her brother. So, a little bit about this painting. Naomi's brother did this painting prior to him having an end to the world around us, right? In layman's terms, he's deceased. Anyway, Franklin let it be known that the painting is worth $1.2 million now that he is deceased, but he wants to auction it off at $5. Told all about how he was a heroin addict and all this other stuff. I mean, just stuff that we don't even need to know. It ain't none of our business. And I felt like I was in the middle of this banquet, because I was like, "Oh, okay." That was just my reaction. But he went on and on and on, and he was like, "We want to start the auction at $5. So it quickly went from $5 to $10, and then it went up to $5,000 because Tiffany said $5,000. Then he said, no, we're gonna stop at $5,000. And then Tiffany was like $20,000, right? Then it went to $30,000, and then he said, "Never mind, I bid $5 million on this, and if my ex-wife want it back, then she can actually spend the $37 million that she got from the divorce settlement." Now I'll be doggone. Now, not only did you just rip her up, humiliate her in front of everybody, all these church people, and now all of a sudden you gonna buy it back after you put it on auction for somebody else to have it. Then he comes back to the table and tell his wife, "Oh, well, don't worry about it. It's a piece of junk. We'll just put it up in the garage." Really though? Well, shit. How nasty. Listen, I don't want to talk ill to church people, but they be some dirty people now. Take that however you will. Anyway, so because Naomi was so distraught and everybody know how much her brother means to her and that painting means to her since she don't have her brother anymore, all the girls opted, oh, come on, Naomi, let's just go or whatever. And so before she left, she was like, you know what? I'm thirsty. She eyed that coffee pot, and next thing we know, she dashed that hot coffee on old girl's next back, next being Lindsay. And Lindsay gets up and she does the whole dramatic white girl scream, "Ow!" I guess. And then she all flailing on the floor and everything. And next thing you know, everybody is trying to get her out. Somebody want her arrested. I told you to put her out. It was just a whole little back and forth tussle between everybody. So the police came and got Naomi. She then went to jail. They in the back room, all the people at the table pretty much decide that, okay, well, Rashida said that she wants to go and she wants to check on Naomi. And Pastor Jeff gets mad and says, what do you mean? You see what she did to that lady's back? You shouldn't be going to her rescue. Why would you go to Lindsay's rescue? And she's like, well, she's my friend. And he was like, but she wasn't right. And she said, neither was he, which I totally agree. So at the end of the day, Geneva says, no, I'll go and I'll check on Naomi since I'm already her lawyer. I'll go and see what I can do and make sure everything's okay. Well, here comes Javon. Well, I'll go with you. And she's like, oh, no. This whole time, Tiffany's still peeping game. And she's just like, but she's standing in the corner and she's not saying nothing. So she says, I'm going too. Okay, girl. Yeah, you get in the middle of that. Make sure, all is good. And so she said, Geneva says, Rashida, I'll let you know what's going on when we get more, information. All right. So then Myron, which is the man that is the assistant to the pastor, says, I'll take you to the airport, or I'm not sorry, airport, to the hospital. And Pastor Jeff is like, no, take Rashida home. And she said, I'm not going anywhere with him. I'm going to the hospital with you, right? So that was a whole big thing. And Myron looks over to his wife saying, well, I'm going to take her to the hospital. And the wife just sitting over there ain't saying a word, because I had to look at it again to see where the wife was and who the wife was. They really didn't show her. She was like a background character or whatever. And I was just like, interesting, which got my mind thinking, and I ain't going to say what I think right now. So anyway, on the way to the, and then, sorry, before we get to that, Will, which is Geneva's husband, he decides that, okay, well, I'm going to get a ride home, and I'm going to get an Uber home or whatever. You go ahead and go. Javon, can you drive Geneva to the jail, and I'll get a ride with an Uber or whatever. And then Bridget steps up and says, no, I'm going your way. I'll give you a ride home. Okay. That was that. Everybody got a ride wherever the hell they going, right? So then they switch over to Will and Bridget in the car. And Will says, thank you for giving me a ride home. She was like, oh, yeah, no problem, whatever. And they having a little chit chat in the car. She tells him, she says, can I say something? He was like, yeah, cool. She was like, I'm so happy that you love my friend the way you do. And I'm looking like, okay, now, girl, is it? Because I'm got him in my back pocket, because he did some crazy stuff too. But that's not here or there. Then she was like, I just wish, I could get the same thing. He was like, oh, you talking about your little friend or whatever. And they had a little conversation or whatever and kind of chuckled about it. And he said, well, you be patient. You going to find somebody or whatever, whatnot. Okay, cool. Then we switch back over to Geneva, Javon, and Tiffany in the car. They on their way to the jailhouse. And Javon is on the phone trying to, get his little people together, because apparently he must be a lawyer as well, because he knows some judges or whatever. So he on the phone with some judge or whatever, and they trying to get her released on her own recognizance. Anyway, in this car, everybody notices that Geneva is very, quiet, and they say, are you okay? She was like, yeah, it's just a lot going on. But she's standoffish to the point where she got an attitude, and it's just like, girl, what? Anyway. So Javon says to them, well, I hope y'all friend is she gonna show up to her court date, because this is my neck on the line or whatever. And Tiffany, she says, yeah, she's gonna show up. Like, she's gonna make sure she shows up. Geneva ain't said a word. I was like, ooh, it'd be so funny how people be acting when the spotlight ain't on them. I'm like, girl, but you married to a whole man. This girl is already divorced. This man divorced, and you acting like you don't want him. When if you want him, you need to just end your relationship and do what y'all said y'all was gonna do from the beginning. But that's just me. Anyway, let's move on. So then we skip over to the hospital where Rashida and Myron and Pastor Jeff just showed up. Now Franklin comes out the hospital room and he greets them and he's like, "Yeah, I can't believe this B did this and that." And Rashida looking at him like, the audacity. And he was like, "Yeah, I called her that." And Rashida was like, "Okay, well, neither one of y'all was right." And he was like, well, "I can't believe you hang out with her and this, that, and the third." And after he called her a B, next time he refrained. But then where he really stepped out of bounds was that he tried to call Rashida one, and Rashida stopped him and said, "Oh, what?" She said, "Oh, I will be that, okay?" And so then Pastor Jeff gonna step in and talk about, "You're the first lady. You need to have some kind of decorum." She said, "I don't care about that." But anyway, she ended up shutting up, and I'm like, girl, what you really need to do is pop him in the mouth. But that's nor here or there. But she let him know that neither one of them was right, and he told her, he being Franklin said, "I can't believe you didn't tell her to stop." She said, "That's my friend, and I did tell her to stop, and now I'm telling you to stop." I know you right. Okay, both of y'all need to stop playing these games, okay? Because both of y'all look crazy. But that's just me. So anyway, Rashida goes and she sits down, and he says, "Well, Myron can take you home." She said, "I didn't ask Myron to take me nowhere. If I came with you, I'm leaving with you. Period." Okay? So anyway, Pastor Jeff is like, he looks at Franklin, "Can I pray for Lindsay?" He was like, "Absolutely." So they go in the room or whatever, and they show this lady on the bed, which I guess is a dummy, but you see all these third-degree burns on her back, and it look a hot mess. She throw that girl back up. Ooh-wee. She is jacked. Just laying in the bed looking like a rag doll. So apparently then they gave her like all this sedative, so she's sleeping on her stomach, looking like a handicapped hero, basically. That's how I can put it, because she just laying there. I mean, just like a mannequin, pretty much. Anyway, so Pastor Jeff comes in and he says this long, little sweet prayer or whatever, and then once they said the amens or whatever, then Franklin has more to say. He's like, "Well, I can't believe that you allow your wife to stand there and be friends with her and look at what the damage she did, and I can't give you any money. I'm not gonna give you $5 million because that's her friend and she did that, and it's y'all condoning her behavior." What now? Because you started this whole thing, and you did. Then had nerve to say you gotta make better choices, man. What? Pastor Jeff, you are such you are a wuss. Like, you ain't stand up to this man, but you have all the smoke for your wife? Child. But anyway, so he says, "Oh, I understand. I hate that it's like this, but, let me go back and I'm going to see what's going to come of this or whatever," right? Whatever. Anyway, so before they leave out, they give each other the bro handshake, and Pastor Jeff, he winces and he said, "Oh, what's wrong?" He's like, "Oh, it's okay, nothing major, just a little burn." And he said, "Man, you need to go and take care of that or whatever, and you need to see about doing something about that." Being as though basically I feel like they're gonna press charges against her, and he wants Pastor Jeff to chime in on that too, but he kind of like reserved, like, "Oh no, it's okay." I'm thinking that something gonna happen and he gonna chime in and be on his side too. It's gonna be a really distinct divide in a minute, but anyway, that's not here or there. Anyway, so before he leaves out, he leaves out or whatever, and then they switch back over to Bridget. She done made it home to her boy toy. When she makes it home, her little boy toy is on the couch. Man child, I should say, not boy toy, but man child is on the couch playing video games. And I mean, he really into it. Now I don't know what y'all be thinking, but and I don't want to talk about him in real life, but I'm gonna talk about him as a character. Why is it like these men be real swole at the top and then they bottoms don't match the top? And it's kind of like, ooh, that was mismatched. But anyway, so he started talking to her and she was like, ooh, this is a day. So she's taking her shoes off and she rubbing her feet, because you know that she's been on her feet moving around the whole time. And he's like, yeah, I heard about what happened or whatever. Everybody talking about it. And she said, oh, you did? He said, yeah, everybody on her side and said she should have got the little white girl. And she's like, oh. And he said, yeah, they calling her a hero, whatnot, whatever. So she kind of was like, oh, okay. And so anyway, he said, well, I got something for you. He goes behind somewhere and pulls out some roses to give to her, and went and got on his knees talking about, I just wanted to get you something. And she said, they fake. He said, smell them. She said, they fake. Ain't nothing to smell. But she took them from, she said, did these come from my bathroom? No, he didn't go in her bathroom and give her some damn fake flowers that she bought. Girl. Girl. He said, don't worry about all that. Then he had the nerve to say, now he was wrong for this. He had the nerve to say, how about you go upstairs and run me some bath water so you can show me how much you love me? He gonna let her run him some bath water so she can show him how much she loved him. But yet she just came in the door. Wait a minute. Do what now? Say what now? And she just looked at him. Bridget, now I want to take them flowers and I want to slap you with them. Because you ain't say nothing to him. And to me, you should have got rid of him a long time ago when he pulled that outfit out of the hamper and then asked you to earn it. We earning dirty clothes now? Okay, I'm putting too much emphasis on this. Anyway, so we going back to the jailhouse. So basically, Will gets home and he lets the babysitter go. He immediately calls Geneva. He's calling to check on her and see, hey, do you want me to wait up? And she says, no, don't wait up. But she moves away from Javon and Tiffany. And so he asked her, so hey, are they getting along or whatever? She was like, do you really think I wanna talk about that right now? And he was like, oh yeah, you're right. And so then he says to her, I just want to let you know, when I saw you dolled up today, it just reminded me of prom. Now all the while she rolling her eyes and doing all this stuff like she just don't believe him, or she just so disgusted by him. And I'm like, girl, he trying. So anyway, he tells her he loves her. She reluctantly tells him the same thing, but I'm like, you really need to act like you really, really want him. But she didn't do that. Anyway, so then he asked her something else, and I can't even remember what he asked her, but he was getting back into how he loves her or whatever. And when I tell you she cut him off, she was like, and hung up the phone. I mean, he got a dial tone. So then he looks at the phone and he was like, well, damn, that's what I'm thinking too. So anyway, what ends happening now is that they switch back to Rashida and Pastor Jeff. They on their way home finally from the hospital. And they having a tussle going back and forth about what happened or whatever, and who should be friends with who and who was wrong. And she said, it takes two people to do that or whatever, and I'm not on anybody's side, but at the end of the day, that ain't the look. And he says, well, I don't want to keep arguing with you. It takes two people to do this or whatever, and we have to both work on it. And she said, I agree, but you got to show up, right? Okay. So anyway, he says, well, he's not, Franklin's not going to give us the money anymore. And she said, well, he wasn't going to give it to us anyway. And so he was like, well, how can you say that? She was like, he wasn't. So Mr. Franklin pledged to give the $5 million for the painting for the church fund. And since Lindsay, which is the new wife's name, is in the hospital looking like a rag doll, and Rashida, the first lady, didn't tell her friend to leave, Now they are taking on the consequences and he can't get a $5 million. You are such a bully, Mr. Franklin. Such a bully. And something ain't right in the milk. You know, because, you know, we always know what we know. I feel like in this scenario, the guys are sticking together and the females are sticking together, obviously. So anyway, they make it to the house and Pastor Jeff hops out the car and he don't come and open her door or anything. And she looking like, no, he didn't just hop out the car and then open my door. I said, ooh, that ain't shit. Dude ain't shit. Boy, Pastor Jeff don't ever surprise me. So they get to the house and then he leaves her in the car. And she looking like, no, didn't. Ooh. He act like more of a female than she do. Now, they be talking about women emotional creatures, but can we take another look at this? But it's just me. All right, this is the end of episode 4. We're going into episode 5. Stay tuned.
And plus she do shows. She cover all like hands, knees, and toes. Don't lollygag, no, she just rolls. Then it's on to the next one, on to a fresh one. Ha. Said it's on to the next one, on to a fresh one. Tanesha's tip coming all 3 speakers. Good honest reviews, book shows, and the movies all getting featured.